Welcome to my apartment. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through my 200 square foot downtown Montreal studio. I'm going to highlight the different zones and how I use modular and budget-friendly hacks to make the space work. I honestly love small spaces so much. As a travel writer, I have stayed in hundreds of hotels around the world, and I've always just felt really cozy and comfortable in smaller spaces. And even in this apartment, I took inspiration from a lot of my favorite hotels. So my living room, for example, I took inspiration from my favorite hotel in Paris. And yeah, let's get into it. So this is what you see when you first walk into my apartment. It's a pretty small little entryway, but there's a lot going on in the space. So to start, when you walk in, you see my travel magnet collection. I would usually put these on my fridge, but I'll show you later. My fridge cannot accommodate magnets, so I put all of the ones that are not breakable on here. That way, when my friends come in, if something gets knocked or whatever, it doesn't matter because it won't break. And then I have my little command situation where I keep my wallet and keys and my sunglasses. And of course, my Halifax Public Library's tote bag. Then on this side, we have the main closet. I'm super lucky because even though this studio is so small, there are two closets. So it's almost too much space for the size of the studio, but this one functions as both a coat closet and Ollie's bathroom. I don't know if non-cat people find that gross, but for me it's better than keeping his litter somewhere out in the open. I think it's also better for him. Then on this wall we have one of the two paintings from my grandmother that were always in her apartment when I was growing up, and I feel very lucky that I get to have them in my apartment. And on this side we have the washer dryer. I feel super lucky also that I have both a washer and a dryer in my unit. I feel like in North America that's super common, but when I was living abroad I only had a washing machine, and I usually hang dry most of my clothes anyways, but for things like towels and bed linens, it's so much easier to just throw them in the dryer. So onto the kitchen. So the kitchen is one of those, I think they call them just a wall kitchen. It's not into a corner or anything. It just kind of takes up an entire wall of my apartment, which I actually kind of like. I like that it's modern and pretty basic. So it has a ton of storage. I felt when I moved in, it took me months to find just how much storage it actually had. I didn't think that this was going to be a cabinet. It turns out that it is, and now that's where I store my tea and coffee. This is just your basic pantry items. And then even up here above the microwave, I have additional storage. I absolutely love my little microwave setup that I did, so I thought it might be a little bit too much at first. I put this sea-themed poetry magnets all around the exterior because I said, my fridge does not have, it's covered, so there's no putting magnets on it basically. So I did put these magnets here, and I thought it would be busy, but I honestly love it, and I feel it gives a little bit of personality to the kitchen, and I just love putting together little phrases. I have my tremendous cry crossing between continents, nod to Istanbul. I have try Tidal Bay, nod to Nova Scotia. I don't know, I just think it's fun, and friends always comment on it too. Then we have the Wonder Oven area. So I've mentioned this in other videos. I got this for free using points, and I think it's really cute. It doesn't work as well as air fryers that I've had in the past, but it's fine and it was free. Then something that I love so much is this little rooster that I got when I was in Barcelona with my mom. We went to a show and we drank too much cava. We were walking around the tourist area, and I don't know why, I just needed this Gaudi inspired, probably made in China rooster that was 39 euros. No regrets. This has come with me to Istanbul and back. and I love it. I also have this picture of me and my grandmother when I was a baby. I love that. I have it hung with commands. And this tinted table book that my brother got me for Christmas, and I love it so much. So I was vegetarian and vegan for most of my life, like since I was 13, and then a couple of years ago I became pescatarian and started eating fish, and I love using this book as a reference for like fun inspiration for buying tinned fish, which sounds sad and like a recession indicator, but it's not, it's fun. Then we have my toaster here, which I love. I got this on Amazon. I'll link it below. But I used to have the Smeg toaster in the same colorway. This one was like $40, and like it's a toaster. It works just as well as the Smeg one, so love that. And then I have this, I feel like it's like Aesop inspired soap dispenser for dish soap. I got it at the Dollarama, which is like the Canadian dollar store chain that's everywhere. And I think it was like $2 or $3. And I just fill it with a big bucket of dollar store dish soap, and I find it like looks chic, but it's not expensive. Then we have the fridge and the freezer. Honestly, I did not realize how much I love having a full-size fridge until I lived abroad and I had a mini fridge. It did not work very well at all, and like I don't even think this is considered full size, but it's big enough for me, and I really appreciate it after not having a great working fridge for so long. There's not a ton in here. I have little like eye masks and face masks. I have condiments and some soft drinks and tofu. Nothing that exciting. And then in the freezer, honestly, I don't have much. My freezer hasn't been working properly, so I have to have it looked at, and I've been trying to just like project pan everything that's in the freezer. Okay, so let's move on to my office. And when I say office, I use it in air quotes. It's really like in the middle of my apartment, and the desk is way too big for the space. This is like, I don't even know what the IKEA name is, but I got it secondhand when I was living in Halifax, and I bought it on Facebook Marketplace thinking it was the smaller version of this. I was living in a studio there too, so it's definitely like bigger than I thought and bigger than what probably works. But honestly, I did not realize how much I love having a big desk. Like when I'm working, I'll insert a clip, but I have my laptop here and my iPad here, and I just love being able to spread out. Like honestly, before when I was living with my ex, I feel like I always tried to like put my desk away in a corner. Like at one point I had like a Murphy desk that folded up, and I would never use it. I would just take my laptop and like work from my couch. But here I'm always working at my desk, and I love that so much. I try to keep it as clear as possible when I'm not working because my cat likes to jump up and like lounge in this area. But I do have my notebooks, my planner, my manuscript that I'm working on, and I have my wake up clock that I turn to face my bed in the nighttime. I have this little globe that I bought from Winners. I have my little calendar here. I love having an analog calendar. And then I have my book, just many copies of my book. I worked so hard on it, and I like having it like front and center. Then I have this little pencil and pen holder. This is what you get your tea and coffee in on the ferries in Istanbul. And when I saw this for sale on one of the ferries, I like needed to buy it. I bought it immediately, and I use it to store my pens and pencils. Let's see, Ollie's favorite spot. Something that some of my friends find interesting, which I am surprised by, is my chair that I have here. So I think it's like, these kinds of chairs are pretty common, but I guess not. I don't know, like everyone always comments on it. It's really easy to sit on, and like it doesn't look that comfortable, but it is. You just, kind of sit like this. And I've had people ask me if it's ergonomic. I kind of thought it was, but I've caught myself in the reflection of my window, like working at night, just like hunched over. So I don't know. I'm usually someone that likes having like a back kind of thing to lean back on, but I find this keeps me engaged and like it rocks. Anyway, it rocks. And then I also have my Turkish carpet. So this carpet, it has history. It was in my first and only apartment in Istanbul, and I loved it so much. When I was getting deported, I asked my landlord if I could buy it from him, and he told me he would sell it to me if, like, he would basically trade my security deposit for this carpet. My security deposit was like a couple $1,000s, I think, if I remember correctly. And I definitely don't think this carpet was worth that much, but I feel like it's a rite of passage for a yabancı to overpay for a Turkish carpet while in Istanbul, so I'm glad that I squeezed that in my last couple of days in the city before going back to Canada. I also want to point out my little tchotchke collection. These are things that I've collected over the years of my travels. I'm not going to point out everything because I feel like we'd be here forever, but some of my favorites are this set of Russian nesting dolls that my friend Yulia gave me. She's from Russia and we met in Istanbul, so when she came back to Istanbul after living in Russia for a bit, she brought that back. This I got from my friend Dwi, who is from Indonesia, but we also met in Istanbul. And when I was leaving Turkey unexpectedly, this was like her goodbye gift to me. Something else I really love is this little piece of red glass. So I actually got that in Seattle on a work trip. I was in Seattle for their glass blowing festival, and they took us on a tour of the Dale Chihuly studio, which was amazing. I was a fan of his before even going to Seattle, and seeing the studio was amazing. But this was, I don't know the terminology, but it was basically one of the ends of blown glass from one of his pieces. Like, it's a scrap basically, but I like to think that it's my little Chihuly that I have in my apartment, like it's from his studio. I have my little genie lamp here. I got that in Morocco, in the Medina. I thought it was so cute, and I bought it right away, and as the guy was wrapping it up, he told me that he put a genie in it, and I was like, "Do you promise?" And he was like, "Yes, I promise there's a genie in there." So that's kind of fun. And then I have my little, I forget what it's called, but it's like a Japanese kind of goal setting little charm. Basically, you dot one of the eyes as you make a goal or a wish, and then you dot the other eye when you achieve the goal. And I got that on my first trip to Japan when I was I think I was 24. And I can tell you now because the goal is complete, but the goal was to visit every continent before I turned 30. So for my 30th birthday, when I went to Antarctica, I brought it with me, and as I set foot on the continent of Antarctica, I colored in the other eye, which was kind of cool. So let's move on to the bedroom. So this is the quote-unquote bedroom. It's pretty basic, but I don't know, I find it's all that I need. My bed is a queen size bed, but it barely fits. You can't really tell, but it's on an angle. The tenant that was here before me had a double bed, but I think he thought it was a queen size bed. So when he was showing me, he was like, "Oh, a queen fits easily. You could almost even fit a king." And then after I got here, oh my gosh, it was so stressful. I had to really wedge it in. Thankfully, I have this pretty basic bed frame that my mom got for me when I moved back from Istanbul to Canada, and it was able to wedge in quite easily. I love the sage color of the sheet. It's supposed to be washed linen. I used to have more expensive washed linen sheets in the past. These are just from Amazon. They're pretty cheap, but I've had them for 2 years and I only have one set of sheets, so they've held up pretty well considering me and my cat sleep in this bed. Then behind me there is this gorgeous painting that always hung above my grandmother's couch when I was a child. It's of Paris, of the Champs-Elysees, but I think the painter is Canadian. I've tried to Google him before, but I couldn't really find anything. Sometimes there's like a painting of his that pops up on eBay, but I don't know. Anyway, this like reminds me of my grandmother so much, and I feel like she had really good taste. Like, this is something that I would have in my apartment even if it wasn't hers, and I feel like it's like the kind of like impressionist, like washed out vibe is really good for like creating a more calming space in the bedroom. Then I have this rolling nightstand, which is a game changer for small spaces. So I keep this is basically like everything that I would keep in my nightstand. There's like melatonin and my eye mask and my earplugs, and I just pop it down here. Then I have my book, which honestly I usually keep on my bed because Ollie likes to lay on it. Don't you? And my cringe-worthy oversized water bottle. And then when I'm not using it as a nightstand, I just roll it over like this. And it becomes my coffee table. So on that note, I will bring you into the living room. So this is my living room. I honestly did not think I would be able to squeeze a couch into this space. It is 200 square feet. There's like not a lot of options, and I was worried having my big desk, my bed, and a couch would make it feel like it's just like 3 items floating in this space. But I actually think it works. I really wanted that IKEA couch that's like always on Pinterest, the white one. I forget what it's called, but it was just too big. I think it was about 6 to 9 inches deeper than this one, so it would have gone out to like here, and that would have just taken up too much space. So I ended up finding this one on Wayfair, and it works so well. It's not exactly like as chic or Pinterest worthy as the IKEA one was, but I really like it. I built it myself. All went well, except for a couple of weeks ago, I had my friend Tisha over, and I just like couldn't get this part in properly, and I was like, whatever, it's good enough. Tisha and I were sitting on the couch having a conversation, and she leaned on this a little too hard, and it just like broke off, and all of my books came tumbling down, and she kind of like tumbled over too, but she was fine, and we had a laugh, and then she helped me put it together properly, so haven't had any issues since then. It's honestly like pretty deep. I feel like I can get super comfy. As you can see, I can like lay here and read, or like if I lay on my side, Ollie will come up and cuddle with me. And then I have my handy dandy nightstand / coffee table here, which I use to place my iPad on sometimes if I want to watch something. I also will sometimes have my pizza Fridays here instead of eating at my desk. And then at nighttime, I have this projector that I set on the table here, and then I pull down my blinds and I'm able to watch like shows on my projector. I basically like turn my living room into a makeshift cinema. I'll put a clip in here so that you can see what I'm talking about, but I honestly feel like I'm kind of impressed with how many functions I get out of this space. Something else that I'm pretty proud of is my gallery wall that I made. So at first I wanted to really take my time and move into this space. I've only been living here for about 2.5 months, but I found this wall empty. Like, I don't know if this was an excuse or what, but like looking at it made my eyes hurt because it was just like bright white. I would start seeing like snow. I don't know if this is a conversation I should have with my eye doctor instead or what, but anyway, it pushed me to start building a gallery wall, and I didn't want to spend a ton of money, so I basically like just started looking for things that I already had in my storage locker. This was my grandmother's. From what I remember, my grandfather gave it to her for her birthday or something to that effect. I really love it. I think it like ties the wall together. It was like the piece that I built everything around. This little lemon I got from Facebook Marketplace. There's this artist selling her work on there and I loved it, and it was only $20. What else? This little cuckoo clock I got in Switzerland on my first trip to Europe ever. I was 17. I actually bought it for my brother who was 4 at the time, but now that he's 20, I feel like he's never really put it up on his wall, and it's maybe not the aesthetic of a Gen Z boy, so I reclaimed it. And I have like some family photos. This is my grandmother and me as a baby, my best friend Tisha, my nanny Shirley. This is a rose that I've put into a shadow box. I actually saved that from one of the first dates that I had with my boyfriend. We would go to the seaside in Kadıköy in Istanbul, and there were always ladies selling roses, and he would always buy me roses. I actually like joked, I can't remember if I joked to him or just with my friends, but like when the roses that he bought me started to die, I was like, okay, it's time for another date. But I ended up saving this, drying it, and putting it in a shadow box, which I love. This I got in Japan on a work trip. We went to a paper making studio and we made the paper. And then one of the PR girls that was traveling with us, she wrote my name phonetically in Japanese, which I think is so cool. And then of course I have an evil eye. This print is of a mural that was in my neighborhood in Istanbul, in Kadıköy. And then basically, like, I just didn't want to spend any money, so a lot of this is from the dollar store. Like, this photo of the Eiffel Tower was actually like what came in the frame, and I just put it up because I actually think it looks okay, but I might replace it eventually. This little cat with a gun on it, I got my first year of university. I'm like not a gun person, so it kind of feels weird to have this in my apartment, but I bought it because it reminded me of Ollie. He was a kitten at the time and he was such a menace, so it's kind of a nod to my university days. Like I got it at a poster sale on campus, and also a nod to Ollie as a kitten. This banner thing I got at the dollar store. It was $5. I don't know. I might replace it one day, but it fit perfectly. Like this was the last little space that I needed to fill. It was $5 and I was like, okay, word art is not my favorite, but it's French, so it makes it a little bit more chic. What else? This is from my mom. She wrote this to me when I graduated high school. My brother gave this to me. This is my favorite street in Halifax, Argyle Street. This is from a local artist and I just got the frame on Amazon. Yeah. I also want to point out my little book collection here. So I wanted to get a bookshelf when I moved in. I had planned on it, but I kind of like how the books look when they're just kind of like stacked in an organized mess, basically. It's probably not the best for the books, but it's kind of like giving that Pinterest vibe that I like. And I don't know, I just like how it looks. I think it looks cool. And I'm not planning on getting a bookshelf now. I just like how it looks like that. Then next to that, I have Ollie's little dining area. So I have an automatic feeder for him, and I really love that. I feel like he's able to have his little breakfast and I'm able to sleep, and that's fine. And then now that I give him a little bit of wet food at night, I still feel like he associates food with me, so he still loves me. But yeah, I like that it's kind of just like there and all I have to do is refill it, and I don't have to worry about like waking up early to feed him. I told you he would sleep on that book if I put it there. Such an angel. Okay, moving on to my closet. This is like honestly one of the bigger closets I've had in a while. So on this side, I just have my clothes hanging. There's a shelf up there I put like a couple of bags on. Then I have my laundry hamper, my yoga mat, and my shoe rack. I keep all of my shoes in here. I never keep my shoes in the entry. I just think it's like neater to keep them in here. And I have this shoe rack from Amazon. It's nothing fancy, but when I moved in, I was planning on buying this shoe rack. Okay, I saw it on Amazon. I think it was like $20. Literally had it in my cart. And then I went downstairs to bring some recycling into the like garbage area, and somebody had discarded the exact shoe rack, and it was in perfect condition. They just like put it to be picked up by recycling. And I was like, okay, that's coming back to my apartment with me. So it cost me nothing. Then on the other side, I have some built-in shelving, which I love so much. I have my accessories here, and then my like pants and skirts. Here I have like home clothes, so like t-shirts, workout stuff. And then on the bottom here, I have some hoodies and some hats. I have some bags hanging here too. The tenant before me actually installed these command hooks, and I just left them up. They work pretty well, so yeah. Then there are also some drawers in the bottom. I put like socks and underwear in those. But yeah, it's a very good sized closet. I actually couldn't believe it when I moved in. Like having 2 closets in this small of a studio, it's like amazing. I'm like pretty minimal, so all of my stuff fits very well. Maybe this is like the normal amount that somebody would need, or like wouldn't be enough for some people, but for me, it's fine. I even have a storage locker in the basement, which is amazing because leaving Istanbul, I had to buy a ton of suitcases. So now I literally have like 6 or 7 empty suitcases in the storage locker. And then here I have just like a little mirror situation. This mirror was in the apartment when I moved in. It was just like sitting in the closet though. I hung it up on the wall, and I think it like completes the gallery wall pretty well. I also eventually want to put like a hanging plant here, like maybe some vines or something, but I don't have a screwdriver. I also don't have a green thumb, so I've been kind of like procrastinating hanging a plant there, but that's my plan. I think it would look really cool just like dividing the space a little bit and like adding some life, some greenery, but I think that's a job for another day. So now I will take you just real quick to my patio area. I'm actually not going to go outside because it's still kind of cold out, but I have a basic patio. I got the IKEA bistro set, which I think will be really lovely in the summer for winding down at the end of the day with like a tea or a beverage. I picture myself having like friends out there too. It's a little noisy just because I do live downtown, but it's nice to have the option to go outside. And while I'm down here, I have my sea glass collection. All of this I've collected on my own with my mom. We got really into it one summer when I was living in Nova Scotia. We would literally like plan day trips around the best places to get sea glass, and I collected so much of it. It's such a fun little like free dopamine boost to go sea glass hunting. I really recommend it if you live by the ocean. Also, something else down here. This is a little X's and O's clay set. So I made that myself. I know it's shocking. It looks so professional. On one of the first dates that I had with my boyfriend, he took me to a clay making workshop, and it was so much fun. So now I like have that there as a memory, which is great. But yeah, let's head to the bathroom. That feels like a weird thing to say. So back in the entry, the door immediately to the left is the bathroom. Let's go. Come on. So the bathroom is a pretty good size, I would say, for a studio apartment. I have a ton of space on the counter. I have these little acrylic organizers that I got at the dollar store. I love them. I feel like acrylic organizers get a lot of hate by like the minimalist community, but I think it looks good on my counter. I love this spinning one. I also have a candle from Bath & Body Works. I have a soap dispenser just from the dollar store. This little tray is from the dollar store too. Basically everything is from the dollar store except for this bottle of cologne, like Turkish cologne hand sanitizer, which is from Turan Palace, which is like one of the most expensive hotels in Istanbul. So it's kind of funny. It's like the juxtaposition of everything from the dollar store plus this like fancy hand sanitizer. I also have this little vessel that I got in India. It just holds like some of my day-to-day jewelry. Then on the opposite side, this is like the toilet area, I guess. I have this amazing Lost in Translation poster. I got the poster on Etsy, and the frame I bought from like a wedding planning website. I think it looks really cute, but it might be a little bit too high up. I'm thinking I might like put it down a little bit and then get something small to put on the top, like another little like gilded frame, but a much smaller one. Something that I love so much about this apartment is the former tenant actually had a bidet installed. And after living in Istanbul, I like couldn't imagine my life without a bidet. So when I saw it in the virtual tour, I asked him if he would leave it for me, and he very kindly did leave it for me. Then we have the shower. It's a pretty decent sized shower, I would say. Like, you walk into it. Ta-da! I have my Turkish towels hanging on the wall here. This little caddy organizer was here when I moved in, so I just left it. And then it has like the rain shower head and like the hand one too, so it's kind of nice. Something else I love about my apartment is that the bathroom floors are actually heated, so it's pretty nice when you come out of the shower and you can just like step onto the warm floor. I love that. So that pretty much concludes the apartment tour. If you made it this far in the video, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I always wanted to do an apartment tour, so this was super fun to do. This is the 5th or 6th studio apartment that I've lived in, and it's honestly my favorite one by far. I find it to be really cozy. In the past 3 years, I've moved like 6 times, so it feels really good to be planting roots somewhere. Even if it's small, like it works for me. It's kind of funny, one of my friend's daughters, she's 7, and when she found out that my apartment was basically the same size as her room, she was like, "Do you want a bigger house eventually?" And I was like, honestly, no. I love living in a tiny space. I feel like it's more than enough for me and my cat. It's so easy to clean. It feels like a little cozy like nest in here. And I think I make good use of the space. So for this space in downtown Montreal, I pay $14.50 Canadian dollars per month, not including the hot water or the internet. So all in, my fixed costs for this apartment is just under 1,600 Canadian, which I think is fair. I'm right downtown, which I love, and this building has security. There's multiple gyms. Like, I feel like it has everything I need, and I'm really happy here. But yeah, I'm gonna conclude this video with like a really quick overview of the space and the layout, just so you can understand like how it flows. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. Okay, bye.